Welcome to our Mothers Out Front Massachusetts Climate Action Call. My name is Diane Sokol. I'm a member of the Brookline chapter and part of the statewide Clean Heat, Clean Air campaign. For those who are not familiar with the Mothers Out Front Climate Action Calls, in the next 45 minutes, you will learn about a specific topic and we will take focused action together. Today, we will get a quick update on Mothers Out Front Massachusetts legislative priorities, the bills that we are supporting in the Mass State House. We will then learn about where we are in the timeline, and we will each contact our local state representatives about these bills. So here's a quick preview of the agenda for our call. After a brief overview of the focus, we will divide into breakout rooms for a few minutes so we can connect with each other. We will rejoin the main room to hear more from our state legislative team about the process and Mothers Out Front priority bills. Then we'll move on to our action. We've set aside about 15 minutes of this call to take action together. We'll come back together for a few important announcements and next steps, and we will end this meeting promptly at 12:45. So we do hope you'll stay until the end. Before we get going, I'll just quickly go over a few Zoom norms for the meeting. Please rename yourself in Zoom if you can to include your city or town, and if you like, an organization you're with or your pronouns. And be sure to mute yourself when we're together in the main room if you are not already muted. You can use the chat to share comments or questions during the call. Closed captioning is available, and you should be able to access that tool at the bottom of the screen. We are trying out a new Zoom feature for closed captioning in the breakout rooms. If this does not function, you can rejoin us in the main room. And finally, we are recording this climate action call. If you do not want to be seen in the recording, please use the Zoom controls to turn off your video. Today, you will hear from some of our Mothers Out Front legislative team members about 3 of our priority bills for this legislative session, and how these priority bills will help Massachusetts work on a swift, just, and equitable transition off fossil fuels. We will provide you with a better understanding of where we are in the legislative process and where we need to be by the close of the session next summer. And we will take action together, connecting with our representatives across Massachusetts to support priority legislation at this crucial moment. So today is election day for some of you, and there are local candidates on the ballots across the state that could support or block climate action efforts. Has the climate been part of a candidate discussion for this election or in previous local elections? Have you gotten involved in democracy at the local level to promote climate action? Deb, could you put those questions in the chat? Make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak about their local climate action. When you see the 15-second countdown, use that time to wrap up your conversations and you will automatically rejoin the main room. So see you back in 5 minutes. Get started again. Welcome back. I hope that you had some good discussions. So I'm excited to introduce Charlotte Dobbs, who is going to talk through our legislative priorities and how we're advancing our goals through the legislative process this year. So Christine, I will hand it over to you.
Or Charlotte.
Charlotte, I think you're muted.
Okay, been doing this since 2020, but still haven't figured everything out. Hi, everyone. My name is Charlotte Dobbs, and I've been a member of Mothers Out Front since 2021. I joined because when I moved to Belmont in 2021, I noticed gas leaks all over my neighborhood. And after just doing some research on what people were doing about this, I learned about Mothers Out Front's highly effective work on gas leaks a few years ago and got introduced to the organization that way. It's been really exciting to learn from and work with the legislative team over the last couple of years. So Mothers Out Front has been working for years to ensure that our families can live in homes that are fossil fuel free, safe, and affordable for all. Today, we're going to focus on 3 priority bills in Massachusetts that are all in support of that mission: Future of Clean Heat, Zero Carbon Renovation Fund, and Energy Facilities Siting. So to start with Future of Clean Heat, Future of Clean Heat is a bill that's sponsored by Representatives Owen and Armini and Senator Cream. This is a signature piece of legislation for Mothers Out Front. It focuses on a group of key policies that are needed to get our buildings off the gas system. Buildings account for around a third of all emissions in Massachusetts, and to meet our climate mandates, we must electrify the building sector. There is really no other path, and the systems change required will be a long and difficult journey. So we need to get started now, and this bill helps us do that. And I'll just give you a second to read on the prior slide, the bullets, because we didn't want to just rush through that as well. Great. So the second key piece of legislation is the Zero Carbon Renovation Fund, which was sponsored by Representative Vargas and Senator Gomez. This legislation is a key enabler of our building decarbonization goals. It provides funding to accelerate building electrification for those that need it most: environmental justice communities, low and middle income housing, municipal buildings, and minority and women-owned businesses. The third is an act relative to energy facilities siting improvement, co-sponsored by Representative Madaro and Senator DiDomenico. This bill is important to our environmental justice goals and is designed to give EJ communities a say in energy siting. It also expedites the siting review process for clean energy projects. Okay. So let's step back and look at how these bills make it through the legislative process. To get signed into law, these three pieces of legislation need to make it through the gauntlet of Massachusetts' two-year legislative session, which began at the start of 2023 and will end on July 31st, 2024. The legislation we're talking about today was filed in January by the bill sponsors in both the House and the Senate. We have already worked to ask our legislators to become co-sponsors of our priority bills, which puts their support on record. The bills have also gathered broad-based support, with many community advocacy organizations joining hands to build awareness and support for the legislation. The bills were assigned to a House and Senate committee to review the bills and report out bills that they support. The three priority bills we are focusing on today were all assigned to the Joint Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy Committee, TUE for short, chaired by Senator Mike Barrett and Representative Jeff Roy. These committees hold public hearings on all the bills before their committee. Okay, so we show up. Mothers Out Front worked with our allies to present testimony and shirt up and show up to show support for these bills at their hearings. The House and Senate TUE committees held separate hearings for each of these bills, and Mothers Out Front was at both. So now we are here. TUE members are deliberating on the legislation before them. House and Senate TUE members are meeting separately at this time. We have heard House TUE Chair Jeff Roy is currently drafting an omnibus bill, omnibus climate bill, as has been done in the previous sessions. Chair Roy will take elements from bills in his committee, such as our three priority bills, and combine the provisions he supports into one bill. We believe that Senate TUE Chair Mike Barrett will also create his own omnibus climate bill in the Senate. The latest we have heard from our allied legislators is that Chair Roy plans to complete the House TUE omnibus bill by late January 2024. Okay, so the House TUE committee will at some point issue a favorable report on the omnibus bill that he creates. That allows it to go forward in the legislature toward passage. At that point, there are a lot of unknowns about what will happen next and what the timeline will be. At some point between February and July of next year, the omnibus bill will come up for a vote in the House. When it gets scheduled for a vote, there will be a brief window of time, just a few days, in which our legislators can propose amendments. That same process will likely happen in the Senate, and then a small conference committee will be formed to negotiate a single bill that both bodies can pass. Once the omnibus bill is in the conference committee, there's much less we can do as advocates to advance our policy priorities before the end of the session on July 31st. So that's why this moment before the omnibus bills are drafted is so crucial. If our priorities are in both the House and the Senate omnibus bills, they're much more likely to make it all the way through the difficult reconciliation process. So that's a lot of information. It's useful to just know how the system works. But the key point we want you to take away is that now is the time to reach Chair Jeffrey Roy, because he is the one who's currently working on the House Omnibus bill. We will reach Chair Barrett in the Senate later on as well, but now is the time to influence Chair Roy at this sort of crucial moment in the process. Mothers Out Front does not yet have a strong presence in Roy's district. He's based in Franklin, Massachusetts, if any of you know people there. However, we can work through each of our local representatives to influence him. So in our action today, we are emailing and calling our own House representatives to ask them to share our concerns with Chair Roy. We want our reps to stop him in the halls and say, Chair Roy, I'm hearing from many of my constituents who are worried about climate change, and they're worried that the utility companies are going to lock us into decades more gas. What is your committee going to do to stop them? In the districts where we don't have chapters, we're coordinating, or in the districts where we do have chapters, we're coordinating meetings with representatives to make this ask in person. And some of you may have already been to one of those. For those of you in districts where we don't have chapters, your voice is even more important. This might be one of the only communications your reps are receiving about this. Send them a note based on what we've designed in the toolkit, and please share with your friends in your district to do the same. So now that you guys have an idea of our priorities and the way we're navigating through the legislative process, it's time for us to take action together. I'll hand it over to Carol Chamberlain to introduce the action. Carol, I think you might be on mute.
Sorry, I had to turn to gallery view to find myself to unmute myself. Today's action has two parts. First, sending an email to your representative, and second, phoning your representative to reinforce the message. Deb will put the link for the action toolkit in the chat. Click on that link. In the toolkit, you will find a link to find the name and email address of your state representative. Make sure to look for your representative, not your state senator. You can use their email address to first send them an email based on the sample we have in the toolkit. You will be using your own email account to send the message because that makes a much bigger impact. Please customize the sample, especially the subject line. If you have time during today's action, please also call and leave a voicemail for your state rep. Phone calls are often more impactful than emails. If they get 5 telephone calls about a particular issue, that's extraordinary, and they really do take notice. So if you don't have time to make the phone call during this session, it'd be really great if you could do it later. Next slide. Finding your representative's information. We also wanted to give you a preview about how you will find your representative and their contact info. When you click the link in the toolkit to find your representative's contact information, it'll take you to a web page with a map. You enter your address into the dialog box at the top of the map, which will pop up a little window with both of your legislators' name. Make sure you click on your representative, not your senator. That link will take you to a page that has all your representatives' contact information. Now, Diane will go over a few more details before we begin to take action.
Thank you, Carol. So we have that link in the chat. We're all going to be quiet for the next few minutes, and so we can take these actions together. So these calls make me hopeful about our future. It's going to take a lot of people to tip the scales in favor of real climate solutions. But every month we build our movement a little bit bigger, a little stronger, and we raise our voices a little louder, and we engage others to join our actions. A few more decision makers start to sit up and listen. So this is the power of our movement. Later today, you will receive a follow-up email. It will have the link to the toolkit that we shared today, a copy of the slides, and a link to the recording of this call. We encourage you to forward that email to your network of friends and relatives across Massachusetts, as we can all connect with our local Massachusetts state representatives. You can post this on social media to share what you learned today about our priority legislation, and you can ask others to join us in writing a brief email to their state rep. Mothers Out Front hosts a welcome call every month. If you have asked yourself, what more could I be doing to stop climate change? Then this is the right event for you. We will help you identify the perfect role in our movement just for you. We want to help you find ways to use your unique talents, your skills, and experiences to build a stronger, more effective, and more inclusive movement for change. We have one of these welcome calls coming up on Saturday, November 11th at 10 a.m. Join us and bring a friend. And Deb will put that link in the chat also. It'll also be in the follow-up email. And finally, we want this climate action call to be on your calendar every month. Deb will drop this final link into the chat. The next climate action call is at noontime on Tuesday, December 5th. You can register now. You won't want to miss it. So many thanks to all of you today for joining to take action together. And special thanks to our speakers and our awesome tech support team working behind the Zoom screen here. So watch your email for follow-up info to share with others to spread our action. And we hope that we will see you again next month, December 5th at noon. Thank you.